and welcome to episode 8 of the On a Family Based podcast. My name is Jake,
My name is Ben.
and we only have two cousins here today, so it's just going to be us. Dallas and Dan are busy doing very, noble. I don't want to use that word, but they have good reasons why they're not here.
It's an okay excuse. It's an okay
excuse. They're not out being like, hey, I just don't want to be there. No, it's like they have stuff to do. It's all right. So, as we always do to start off the episodes, let's talk about what we have been watching this past week in sports, but also just in general. So, Ben, what have you been watching?
So this past weekend was All-Star Weekend in the NBA. So I'm a basketball fan, and I cannot think of a time where I was more disappointed by a slam dunk contest than if maybe you and I went out there and tried to do a slam dunk contest. You know, they had more missed dunks than most people have shots in a game. It was wild. It was unbelievable to see. The dunk, like, it's almost come to the point where the dunk contest has been like everything that there can be done has been done, and so now guys are just they're trying to do like superhuman stuff, and it just can't physically. I mean, Blake Griffin jumped over a car. People were, you know what I mean, like the Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon a couple of years ago, in 2016, I think it was, put on like the best dunk contest in recent history, you know, and everything else has just kind of been downhill. Karl Anthony Towns winning the 3-point contest as a center is pretty neat.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick. And then obviously the game yesterday was insane. Curry dropped 50 and had like 16 threes, which is just nuts. He had more threes than the entire other team combined, which is crazy. So yeah, I basically just watched basketball because football's over. I watched a little bit of college baseball highlights. Haven't actually sat and watched a full game, but there's thankfully some kind of baseball on. And the baseball writers who, since we can't talk about MLB, or they don't have anything to talk about in MLB, are covering a lot of college baseball, which I think is good because it means you know it's getting more eyes on the sport. So college baseball has been fun. It's the first week ISU beat number 2 Arkansas on Friday. They did lose Saturday and Sunday, but they were at least close games. Close games though. I mean, Arkansas is top number 2 in the country or something like that. So
yeah, they're number 2.
Go Redbirds! I'll take it. But
they won. They won opening day. See, you win opening day. That's a good start. Not bad.
Yeah, it's a great way to start the season. At that point, it can only get worse, right?
Yeah, I did not watch the really any of the NBA stuff. I do watch the occasional game, but the NBA All-Star game and the 3-point contest and the skills contest and the dunk contest and celebrity game, it's just, to me, it's just not that great. The game itself is kind of a side note. Like, even though Steph Curry went off, like, it was a side note to, again, as you said, how bad the dunk contest was. It's a side note. So, in that way, I don't really, and I've never looked forward to watching it or, whatever. But no, kind of just, I'll be honest, I forgot it was on. So,
I mean, that's fair. That's fair, especially if you're not the biggest fan.
But when I missed it, I was like, oh, that's all right. It's fine.
Didn't actually miss all that much.
Yeah, no, I did hear this was a bad dunk contest. I heard about. So yeah, I mean, you see like reels and TikToks of the highlights, and that's pretty much all you got.
The low lights.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't watch that, and kind of as you said, it's hard to watch college baseball, softball because they're not nationally televised. They're not used to it, so it's hard to watch. Like,
I think most of them are on like ESPN Plus or something like that. So you have to have ESPN Plus in order to even watch.
Right.
some of the games, and then you need like the SEC network if you want to watch specific teams at a college that maybe
Yeah.
you like over other teams. Like me as a Florida fan, I would love to watch Florida baseball, but I'm certainly not going to subscribe to SEC network just to watch, Florida college baseball. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's
Yeah,
like
I
they're
mean,
making it harder for people to end up watching it. But
well,
whatever.
in fairness, there usually is Major League Baseball right now, so that would be on ESPN or it would be on a big network. So you wouldn't really have the audience for it, but now
Mm,
that you do, it's anyway. So I don't I have the SEC network, so I can watch it, but even there, it's not like it's anyway. So I did not watch a college baseball softball, but I will be. Especially I went to Mizzou, University of Missouri, on I think it's like March 18th through the 20th. They play Vanderbilt, where Dallas
ooh,
is getting his masters, and so that'll be fun, and I can watch that on the SEC network. I can see Mizzou get hammered, but
yeah,
should be. I mean,
probably.
it'll be fun overall, but
Oh, sure.
But yeah, so I didn't watch much sports. Again, besides that, the thing I have been watching, I finished. I feel like it's just this becoming like a just a what. How far are you into Marvel on Netflix for me? Because I just finished the first season of Punisher. Now I'm on the third season of Daredevil. So I'm just kind of working my way through. They're getting taken off next Monday,
Soon. Yeah, I was
the
gonna say soon.
28th.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I mean, let's just watch them before they get taken out.
Are they getting put
Yeah.
on Disney, or are they just not going to be aired at all?
Well, they haven't made. I don't believe they made any announcement, but I
Mm.
can't imagine seeing how violent they are at
Punisher is.
times.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we can even get into that, but um so they haven't made announcements, but I'm pretty sure from everyone that's made comments about it is that if they do end up anywhere, which I'm sure they will, they'll end up on Hulu
Oh, sure.
since
Yeah, that makes
Disney
sense.
owns it. So, but yeah, so just trying to work my way through. That's it. So
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
kind of a slow week with my birthday last Friday. Um, Didn't do much, just kinda even with TV and stuff, just hung out,
What did
so
you guys do for your birthday? Anything?
oh, I mean, I Ben, you may you may know this or suspect it, but I'm very much just like, let's stick to our schedule.
Mm.
So, homeschool in the morning, I worked out. I think the only thing that really changed was we watched a movie in the afternoon. I ate a slice of cheesecake and I had homemade pizza for dinner. And that was it.
Hey, that's a good
That
day
I
then.
mean,
That's a good
that's
day.
that's what I'm saying. Like it's not bad when that's your, slow birthday. So
Yeah,
anyway.
absolutely.
But yeah, so Um, I did see there were a couple big news stories, but I thought there were two news stories we could touch on. And the first one actually comes from college baseball is that a big thing on social media, I'm sure you saw it, was, or I'm sure if you're listening, you can easily find it if you look on any social media platform. But Vanderbilt, the number three team in the country, they're starting to use wearable devices to help relay sign calls. So, like fastball up and away, or curveball, or whatever the case might be. So, they're utilizing a wearable thing around. It's not a watch, but it's like a wearable,
It looks like a
almost
Fitbit
wristband.
type thing. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's like a Hmm.
Yeah, so there's multiple options that you can use, but the big thing is that apparently I didn't know this because if you looked online, you'd only think that Vanderbilt used it, but apparently they're not the only ones using it. But Vanderbilt on TV, so people saw it, and it got a strong reaction for something so I don't know, small. So, what was your reaction to Vanderbilt using these wearable pitch calling devices?
So, when I first read it, I immediately messaged, or I saw it on Twitter, and I messaged our group chat, and I was like, "This is never seen this before," and it was weird because I was like, "What are we doing?" Right? Like, I get that you want to advance the sport. Pace of play is what they said. They said it's for pace of play and to stop sign stealing. Okay, but
Right.
also at the same time, right? Like, if that's the pro list, that's fine. But the con list is weird, right? Because wouldn't you want your pitcher to learn how to call his own game, throw strikes, to build a relationship with the catcher, to figure out like what he needs to do to advance his career, and not just have a
Yeah.
guy tell him exactly what pitch to throw at what time? You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like it's cool. It's a cool idea, and obviously Vanderbilt's not the only one, and it's going to be all over college baseball. I don't know
Right.
if they'll ever implement it in Major League Baseball, especially after everything with the Astros using
Right. Right.
electronic signs for all that other stuff.
Electronical. Yeah.
Electronical. Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting because I never thought it would come to that where they would just be rocking Fitbits and it'd have like a full diagram of like. Have you seen the actual what it actually looks like? Right? Yeah, it's weird. It's
I've
kind of
seen
weird. It's
one of them.
cool too at the
I've
same time.
seen one of them, and I'm like, at that it does look cool, but as you said, there are cons.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I like the idea. It's going to take some getting used to, I think, because in my heart, I am a baseball purist. I don't like a lot of change to the game
Mm,
all that much, at least like in regards to technology. Like, if you
mhm.
want to speed things up, fine, whatever. But I like baseball being baseball. And so catchers and pitchers, like I liked when catchers would wear like the quarterback wristband things,
Right.
and they would have. That's fine. Why not do that? Like leave it at that. I mean, the second baseman's not sitting there reading that tiny little thing on the guy's arm. You know what I mean? But if he's calling strikes and balls and everything like that, like I don't. I guess I just never realized how prevalent sign stealing was. That we needed to come up with a whole new device to get around it, to
Right.
make it not an issue anymore. You know what I mean? And then
Right.
obviously, like you said, there's people who are older and grumpier than I am about
Right.
baseball who definitely don't
Yes.
want this, getting introduced into the sport. So I mean, I think it's just going to take me personally some time to get used to it. I don't hate the idea, but I'm also not in love with it. So I just, I reserve the right to complain about it later if I don't like it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. The I will say this is the first year they're able to do this, and so apparently they've been talking about this for years now. But this is the first year that the NCAA has allowed it, so they're taking advantage of it. And kind of what you're saying is that this is very early on. This is opening weekend.
Right.
So there it's gonna change, it's gonna morph. There are going to be even more downsides, like to who knows like how it's going to be abused and used by other teams. So it's so there's gonna be bad things that come from it that we don't see in 3 games. But I do believe that I have to give it a chance.
Sure. Yeah.
Like proved to me, not like you have to prove to me. It's not like I'm the one who's gonna, but prove to fans, prove to other teams and players, conferences, uh, that there are real downsides, and I would say this is like what you're talking about with pitch calling. And as I grew up in my later years, I was a catcher. So
Mhm.
I loved calling the game. There was a value in a catcher calling the game and understanding their pitcher, understanding scenarios, understanding the hitter, and the fielders as well would be able to understand, even if they're not like knowing the pitch call, they would understand it. But I would say, like, in college baseball, apparently it's not unusual to get pitch calls anyway from the dugout. So
Mhm.
even if the catcher is calling for a fastball, it's coming from the coach anyway. So
From the coach,
apparently
yeah.
that's not a big change. So you just cut out the catcher.
Just cut
So
out the
it
middleman. Yeah.
right. And the other thing I just thought about was that the the thing is that college baseball, especially these top teams, this is not and I know it should be in some ways, it should be a developmental time for players. It's not, because they have to win now. They have to put up numbers. They have to um, get their draft stock higher. They have to go to the World Series. They have to do all this stuff now. So there's not much time to develop. You can develop on the outside on your off time, but on the field, you have to perform if you're a top team. So it's not really a time for a catcher or a pitcher to learn, what doesn't work.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, I guess, and if we're obviously seeing the issues with minor league baseball. We've talked about it, the last however many weeks. The MLB's trying to get rid of the minor leagues. So if you're getting rid of the minor leagues or you're cutting down on all that stuff, that's even less
Right.
time for a pitcher or a catcher or somebody else to develop. So I mean, like I understand. I understand. I think it was just one of those things that was kind of like surprising at first. I was a little taken back by it. And I think once it gets settled in and then it just becomes part of the game, it'll be fine. Like I was just as annoyed when the MLB instituted like the pitch clock. I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like just have
Yeah.
Mark Burley go out and pitch every day. Games will be an hour and a half long. You get in and you get out and you go home, right? Because he was just like him and Maddox, right? Just like boom, 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 not messing around, just going out there and pitching. And not everybody is that, right? So sometimes you get 4 hour games. So I get why you'd want to pick up the pace of play and all that. It's just going to take some time to get used to, especially for old head baseball fans like myself who are a little bit stuck in my ways and what I like versus some of the newer changes that are coming. But I'm very open to like DH in both leagues. You know what I mean? Which is
Right.
against like a purist baseball person like I pretend to be. So it just kind of depends. Yeah, I think I'll get on board eventually. I'm just kind of being an old curmudgeon about it now, but it'll be
Yeah.
interesting. I mean,
And
I think that's yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, yeah, as you said, I think it's interesting because it's really a trial. It's a trial run. So, you know, and again, you don't have to use them. So if you're like the number one team, though, the Texas Longhorns, you don't have to use it. So it's really up to the team and how. And again, I think it'll take time, and that's the insane thing about the America is that we're so impatient that like three
Oh yeah.
games in, we're like decide it. I
Right now.
need a
What's your
decision
opinion right
right
now?
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me a hot take. And I am not going to serve up a hot take. I think it's we need more time, so we'll see.
So real quick,
So
speaking of college baseball though, before we switch
yeah,
topics, did you see that kid on North Carolina State? He's like a
yeah.
true freshman. He's got 5 bombs already and like 14 at bats. I'm like, this dude's nuts. He's just out here crushing, crushing.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's good to have a news story that people hear about.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
any sort of like breakout star or whatever,
Hmm.
it's always cool. So, but yeah,
People like having somebody to root for. Yeah.
I did live in Raleigh for a couple years, and NC State is in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I will be honest, if I was still there, be like, hey, this gets interesting. Let's see if we can check it a game. So again, like you know, it can only be good for a bit for college baseball.
At least
So
getting some eyeballs on the sport. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, especially since the MLB is not playing right now. So, and we'll get there, but let's actually move on to an in MLB story. Is that Juan Soto, the right fielder for the Washington Nationals, apparently, according to reports, he was offered 13 years for $350 million before the lockout was whatever it came into
Started.
place.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, right. So he was offered 13 for 350 mil. Turned it down. Good idea? Bad idea.
I think it's a great idea. He bet on himself. All right. I think he believes, and I think there's a lot of people around baseball. I know. I heard Trevor May, the reliever for the Mets, was talking
Yeah.
in an interview, and he said he absolutely believes Soto will be the first guy to break 500,
Mm,
which is insane. Like, that's first of all,
yes.
that's an insane amount of money, right? Because he's only 23 years old, and it seems like he's been in baseball for 10 years already, right? And he's been good. Career average over 300 already.
Right.
Every metric offensively through the roof. Whether he's good defensively doesn't matter. They have DH now, so stick him at DH if you feel like he can't field, right? Whatever. That just means he's going to rake even more. So I think he's betting on himself. Knock on wood, no injuries. There's no chance he doesn't make a ton of money. I mean, because you look at what Machado signed for 13 for 300, something like that. It was when he signed with the
Yes,
Padres.
some.
It was
Yeah.
big, but like Juan Soto is not only $50 million better than Manny Machado for the same amount of years. I would take Juan Soto over. I mean, you and I talked, I think, before we even started the podcast, or maybe it was like on the first one or two episodes. We talked like if we were going to build our team around any player, who would
Yeah.
it be? I think you and I
Yeah.
both agreed that it would be Juan Soto.
I
So
feel like everyone said him.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
there you go. I mean, that's four people, four of the smartest people in all of the
Oh,
world
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
who all
Four
agree.
tomokes.
Four bums. No, but I think realistically, he's worth every penny. Whatever money he decides to sign for, whether it's 375, whether it's 400, right? And the guy who's not making, or the guy who ends up making 500 is not even in the league yet. Whatever, he's going to make a record-setting amount of money. And I am so pro player in almost all instances. I want the player to make as much money as the team is willing to pay, as much as he's willing, or as much as he's able to get. Go out and get, right?
Right.
So I'm excited for it because I think it's going to be awesome when he finally does it, or when somebody breaks that threshold of like the next thing. Because like when A-Rod signed that first $100 million or $150 million deal, whatever it was,
It was
with the two,
275,
yes,
I think.
whatever, it was insane. And then everyone's heads like exploded. They're like, oh, no one's going to touch this money. And then like Stanton comes out and he signs a massive deal,
Yeah.
and he hasn't lived up to any of it really, but he got his money, and then everybody else just been slowly, chipping up, chipping up, chipping up. And I think
Yeah.
Soto's going to be obviously the next big contract.
The reason I say he won't be is because I don't believe he'll sign one until he's up for a free agency. So I don't think he'll be the next, only because of that technical issue. But I do think he will sign a gigantic one. If he again, huge if he's healthy. If he's, he doesn't, for some reason, unforeseen to know, that he dips a little bit. So the one thing I would possibly add is why not sign a 13-year deal for 350, but then make it a party up to sign that deal. You would have to say after 5 years, I get a player option to renegotiate.
It's not a bad
If
idea.
after like 5 years, if he's still doing that well, then get even more money.
Yeah.
But would the Nationals do that? Probably not. I mean, that probably not good for their bottom line, or knowing how much money's going to be in their bank account in 5 years. I get that, but if I was him, I get that guaranteed money and then build it into my contract where I can have the say so, or maybe a player opt out in 5 years, or 7 years or something, and then you
Yeah.
can spend your third year season. If you outside of their 7, you can go somewhere. I mean, I think that would be my only thing. And do I think he's worth more? If he's healthy and everything's going well, then yeah, I mean he's definitely worth more. There's only one athlete on this, not probably not on the planet. There may be a couple in soccer, but only one American athlete is making or having a contract for 500 mil. Do you know who that is?
American athlete for
Yeah.
500 mil. So I'm running through the sports. It's obviously not hockey. Obviously, it's not football because their contracts might as well be written on toilet paper because they just give guys like, "Oh, here's your guaranteed money," and then they just ship them out 2 years in. I don't know. I don't know. Is it soccer?
No, I
I was gonna say
mean
not maybe not American soccer.
it is a football player. It's
Is it the
Patrick
Mahomes?
Mahomes.
Okay, yeah, that
Yeah,
was
so
the only other guess I had.
so I would say, is Juan Soto at the age of 23 gonna have as big of an impact on his team as Patrick Mahomes? I would say no, because he's one of nine. Or you could argue one of like 15. So I think is he worth more? Should he want more? Yeah, but man, that's as someone who makes, as you said last week, like 0.00001% of any of that, I'd be hard pressed to be like, yeah, I'm gonna turn down like 27 mil next year.
Yeah,
I don't know.
no,
That's
I
hard.
get. So A-Rod was telling a funny story I saw in an interview, where he was talking about when he was first in high school or in his senior year of high school, right? His mom wanted him to sign, or his mom told his agent or whatever that he would only go to the pros, get drafted straight to the pros out of high school,
Yeah.
if his signing bonus was 1.5 million,
Wow.
and the offer was 1 million. And A-Rod's mom, who was working two jobs at the time, they're barely making ends meet. She's refusing to let him sign for less than 1.5. And A-Rod's like, what are you doing? Like, this is life-changing money, and she's basically telling him, you have to bet on yourself. You have to be great. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, so then he ends up signing out of high school and taking it because the team, or did he go to college? Did he go to Miami? I know
Yeah.
he was planning on going to Miami. Yeah, okay, so then he went to Miami and then got drafted.
Whatever. I don't know.
Well,
Look at
whatever the
us.
case may be, it was something. It was something like that
Be
where, he had
baseball
a.
podcast, not known much.
Hey, he also said he wanted to play quarterback at Miami too. So,
That's
and
true.
obviously, I don't
That's
remember him doing that. So that's why I think
no.
he didn't even end up going. But
Yeah.
so, a question to you about contracts, though. You would have to sign a Bonilla type deal, right? Like you personally, Jake, would you be like if they offered you this deal? I'd be like, yeah, I'm. Just give me of the. Let's just say I sign a $300 million deal, right? I'd be like, give me
Yeah, sure.
150 right now, and then spread out the other 150 through the rest of mine and my family's lifetime, and I'm fine. Like, you know what I mean? Because what can you do with 150
Yeah.
million that you can't do with 300 million, or you know what I mean? Or what can you do with 300 that you can't do with 150? Because at that point, you just still have so much money. I would have to sign a Bonilla deal.
Yeah, I mean, well, for one thing, I think teams have figured out how insanely stupid that deal was, so they would never do that. Um, but
Just
yeah,
keep
I
them on the
mean
books
that.
forever.
Yeah, I mean, if they could do that, some team would for sure. But I don't know. I would me personally either want like 300 mil, like in those like if let's say my my disabled 32-year-old self getting a 13-year deal for 350, would I rather have that or spread out? I You know what? I don't care. I just It'd be nice to have it. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, you
Not
could
not
do
not to
pretty
have the
much
money.
anything.
Yeah, not to have the money, but like to, as you said, like pass it down generational. That'd be great. So I don't care. Either way. I
Your
mean,
family would
really,
be set
whatever.
forever.
Yeah. So I don't care. Whatever you want, I'll do it.
Yeah. No, I think I would have to be like, let's try to Bonilla this bad boy. Because I might be terrible in 5 years. I can't
Right.
guarantee that I'm gonna be worth this contract. So let's just spread this out. I mean, the only other thing that makes me nervous about the Soto deal, right? You said wait until he's 30, right? Then you get
Yeah.
into the territory of like that Pujols contract when he went to the Angels at 32 for 10
Yeah.
year deal, and it was just like immediately everybody knew this was a bad contract because there was no way he was going to be able to keep up. I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the five best players I think we've seen in our
Right.
lifetime, but there was no way he was going to be able to keep up his pace at 36, 37 years old. And then the Angels are just paying a ton of money for a part time player. I mean, and granted, Pujols' body size doesn't really allow him the flexibility to be like a Juan Soto because I mean, Pujols is a giant human being. So it'd be interesting to see how Soto ages and if he's able to keep himself like you know
Right. No, so
healthy and in
what
shape. And
my point in saying that was if he signed a 13-year deal at 30 years old, he could opt out himself. So he could sign that big deal, but then if he wanted to take another big bet on himself, he could. So, I mean, but again, this is one of those stories that I feel like in 2 years we'll look back on and be like, 350 bill was nothing.
yeah, yeah, pretty much.
So,
Who
I
knows?
mean,
Maybe that guy from North Carolina State's gonna make buku bucks.
yeah, let's not bang on that 18-year-old.
Yeah. Dude,
That's
Juan
all. I
Soto's
mean,
only 23. It's not that
I
different.
I I understand, but I mean, 5 years at that age is a big difference.
Yeah,
So,
I'm just saying Juan Soto was in Pampers while this guy was running around. Like, this guy was born, so it's not crazy. But I get your point. I understand what
yeah,
you're saying.
yeah. But let's actually just move on to I think the only real story that we're gonna touch on, and doesn't even have to be long because there's not, again, not a whole lot. But this week, the MLB and the MLBPA will be meeting. I think they said every single
Every day.
day
Mm-hmm.
in the hopes that they can work something out by the 28th, which is next Monday. Um, so today, as we record on Monday night, so Monday, they apparently had two meetings that lasted a total of 5 hours, which is a lot,
Oh
which
yeah.
is like a lot more than they've ever done. It's mostly been 15 minutes
I
and
was
get out.
I was gonna say, figuring out their last meeting was 15 minutes long, 5 hours is quite the
I, f-
growth.
I feel like their last like three or four have been like under 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's been stupid. Um, But so they met today for 5 hours, and granted, not a lot of details come out on big things. Maybe they'll leave those big things to the end because it'd be like, "Hey, we made progress on all this stuff. Let's just figure this, stuff out." But some of the stuff that came out was again on the finer details of the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement. And the overall gist of what they talked about was that they talked about Major League Baseball withdrawing its proposal to reduce the minor league roster sizes. And that's something that you touched on a second ago. But they also withdrew their option of the MLB withdrew their proposal for limiting the number of times a player can be optioned from the pros to the minors. So as of right now, and this is a huge, we can talk about this, but players can be optioned. They can be called up to the pros and then optioned back. Kind of like ping pong, just tossed back and forth. So they were going to set a limit of 5, and I believe the most times that someone was optioned last year was 12.
That poor guy.
Yeah,
Jeez.
apparently the Rays like to option pitchers quite a bit. So that guy was optioned from Durham, North Carolina to Tampa, Florida 12 times last year. That's insane.
That's wild.
They
Yeah.
but they withdrew their proposal of limiting it to 5, which is actually more in favor of the owners than the players. Um let's see. The Another big thing was there, and this is, if you're a baseball fan, you'll understand. If not, then how about this? Look it up on Twitter, and you can
Google it.
get all this information. Yeah, Google it. You'll be able to get it. So, talking about the pre-arbitration bonus pools for young players, they want to up the money for young players to have incentives. They up that. They upped it. That does mean a lot, but they Major League Baseball upped their proposal to 20 mil. The last time was 15, so again, not big, but something. And yeah, I mean that's really about it. But the fact is that they have made progress on some stuff is good, and the fact that it took 5 hours is good. Now, Ben, you actually brought up, you asked me about the spring training hats.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember my response. My response was nothing,
It was.
wh-
It was.
which which was because I didn't understand what you were saying. So the Major League Baseball, every team released their spring training hats. I didn't know that,
Mhm.
obviously. Now, why is it being cynical of me that the owners are just so happen to release these spring training hats that may never be seen on a
Well,
field? They want us to buy them. Is there any correlation there, or what are your overall thoughts about any of the stuff I said? Because I did say a lot.
so I can tell you this: it worked. If the plan was to get a sucker like me to go and buy a hat, I mean, I had it in my cart. First of all, I just want to say I don't like the Cubs one. I bought every Cubs spring training hat for the past 3 or 4 years. Um, I don't like the logo. I don't like the logo that they did for the Cubs one. You mentioned the White Sox one looks really good with
Yeah.
the black S and the white stars on it. I agree that looks really nice. But it's it's funny because they're still gonna try to make money hand over fist. They don't care how it comes. So they're like, put the hats out. Dopes like Ben are gonna buy the hats. People are gonna
Right.
buy the hats. Like it doesn't matter. And as pro baseball hat as I am, I was like, I'm in. But I think realistically, the fact that we can go from a 15-minute conversation to a 5-hour conversation.
Yeah.
If we were to equate this to like you're married, I'm married. If you and your wife wanted to have a serious conversation and the first conversation you had lasted 15 minutes, you wouldn't feel very encouraged about
No.
how things are progressing. But then the next
I
time you
mean,
guys
I
talk,
I've had those.
yeah, of course. I think anybody who's married's had those. And then the next conversation you guys have is 5 hours long. You're gonna be like, okay, we got some progress going. There's things that are happening. Now, you're not going to get everything knocked out in one session, which is why they're planning a week long to try to
Right.
get everything done. But if you can make even incremental but substantial progress each day, right? Just build on it. Just build on your relationship with each other each day so that we don't have to do this again in 4 years, 6 years, whenever the next CBA runs out. Like, this is killing baseball more than pace of play, more than anything else. Is nobody wants to hear about millionaires arguing with millionaires about who gets more money, right? The fans, people like us, don't care about that stuff, especially the everyday fan who's just like, oh, I'm going to watch a baseball game today. People like you and I, who baseball is what we love, this is what we care about. Sure, we can sit here and talk about and care about, CBA agreements and who's getting called up and sent down and all that stuff. But most people don't really care about it. And then that's what killed baseball in the 90s when they had their player strike and baseball almost died. And if it wasn't for, whatever, we can get into that later. But I think it is super important to build on whatever success they made today. So whether it was 5 hour conversation, I'm not saying you guys have to go 12 hours tomorrow, like sun up
Right.
to sundown, sit in this room and don't move. But at least, they have some goodwill now, right? They have some good relationships that they've kind of built up. Just keep building on it. Just keep making incremental but significant changes that are going to lead to a result that makes everybody happy, which is the baseball fans, baseball players, and the owners, right? So I think realistically, if they can build on this tomorrow, and I think tomorrow is the key, because if they meet for like half an hour and then somebody says something that somebody doesn't like and it just derails the conversation, then we're back at square one. But if they can build on it and make more
Right.
promises, make more changes, even cut and give and go, like give a little leeway,
Yeah.
meet in the middle on some stuff. We talked last week about how MLB came in at 15 million and the players wanted 115 million. So there's a
Yeah.
$100 million gap. Now MLB only went up 5, but that's still, they're trying. They're at least moving up, right? And then the players will have to concede, and then let's meet somewhere in the middle. Eventually, is what we're going to get to.
Yeah,
That's all.
and I was talking about this with my wife, and she, Allie is, she likes baseball. She loves the Cubs, but she doesn't know all the ins and outs. And I mean, why would you if you aren't some obsessed kid like me? Um,
Sure. Yeah.
But no, as I was explaining some of the stuff, she made a very direct parallel to job interviews and negotiations when it comes to your salary. If
Mm,
you're in the privileged position to negotiate your salary with a corporation or with whoever, that usually it's awkward, it's weird to be like, this is my number. That's not really your number.
yeah.
And then they're like, no, my number is so much lower. And it's like you finally find a way to get to the middle. But as you said, Ben, the problem is that takes time.
Yeah.
That takes the both sides being like, all right, I can do this. And then it further conversation. The one thing is that as pro, player union stuff as I am right now, I've not seen the players go down on the big numbers.
Yeah.
And while I believe that they have the right ideas, they I think this can very quickly be like, hey, players, you have to move a little bit
hmm Yeah. I
because
mean, there has to be some leeway, some
the
give and take. Exactly.
the owners who are trying to make money off all of baseball, they are moving a little bit, not as you said, not a lot, but they're making some movements, so the players have to move a little bit, and that takes time. But I mean, it could be tomorrow, the next day, but hopefully by the end of the week they're a heck of a lot closer.
Yeah, I mean, I like to picture it as they're in a giant conference room, right? And somebody takes a broom and just sticks it in the door handles and says, "Figure it out. I'll let you out when you guys get this worked out. Just figure it out. We'll slide food under the door for you. Slide a pizza under there or
It's
something.
like
You guys figure this out."
it's like watching. Have you seen Coach Carter?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, when he locks the gym, and then
exactly right.
it's like, yeah, but then they end up, the town like breaks the locks, and then but the players are sitting in there and they're saying like, just because they take the locks off doesn't mean we have to play. I mean, the idea of locking yourselves in a place to get the goal done, I think has to be your mindset, and that's I don't. We'll see. That's all. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean,
I have
like you
no
said, it's
other idea.
it's Monday, and they're going to meet until Friday. So we have to imagine that some kind of goodwill was made today, and that's something that they can build off of, right? You want to
Right.
be able to build off of a foundation of openness and honesty. I say are the two most important things in any relationship, whether it's with your wife, your friends,
Yeah.
businesses. Openness and honesty, right? You just you say what it is. As long as these people act like adults, which they are. I mean, they're not 10-year-olds, right? Like if you stick two
Should be.
10-year-olds in a room and say sort out this disagreement with each other.
It's like, yeah.
Exactly. But you guys are grown adults. So the owners are in their 60s, 70 years old. The players are 30s, 20s, 40s, whatever. Just sort it out, figure it out. We can get this. I
Yeah.
mean, if we want to compare it to like real world issues, this is not Russia and Ukraine, which is like real life stuff happening. This is Major League Baseball.
I mean, I don't know. This is tense, you know?
Well, nobody's gonna die because people don't
I don't
agree on a CBA.
I don't know, Ben. This is serious.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is troops on the border. Okay?
yeah.
This is
These are boots
yeah.
on the ground. This is serious.
Yeah,
No, but
no,
you know what I
and
mean. Like
yeah.
they could figure this out if they really put their minds to it. They really cared to figure it out. They could figure it out. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
that's my point. It's just
again, we're recording on Monday night, and by the time you hear this, I don't know what time you're gonna hear it, but it always comes out Monday morning or afternoon. So, I mean, by the time this comes out, you'll have more information than we have right now.
yeah,
But we'll see. I can hope for the best. And but at the end of it, I still have the strong opinion as we had last week that even with all the goodwill, this is one day. I think we have much more history of it not going well. That
oh
my
yeah,
idea is kind of along the lines of, you mentioned Trevor May. He talked about he can easily see it being May. And you know what? If it gets to possibly, May, I mean, I could see June. Like, let's not get I know it's cynical of some kind, but like I don't know. So my idea is that, I'm gonna be optimistic and say May. May
yeah.
1.
Yeah, I think we need to have a bit of cautious optimism.
Right.
You're exactly right. I saw that same interview because he was talking to Chris Rose, and that's where I got
Yeah.
the Juan Soto thing from. They were
Yeah.
talking earlier in that same interview. But yeah, he said like if MLB's comfortable playing a 130 game season, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean that's right at when the season would start, and I think it's poor negotiating tactics if you already have a number in your head and you're just
Yeah.
like, we're not budging from this date at 130 games or May 1st is when we're going to start. Like I feel like if you're negotiating, you have to have some room for flexibility. You have to give and take, and there has to be some kind of
Right.
conversation and leeway. And I think it's really unfortunate that MLB, the owners, and even to your point, like the players haven't really budged either. You know what I mean? And we vilify the owners because they are billionaires, but I
Right.
mean the baseball players still have to put forth an effort of unionship
Right.
of trying to make this thing work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know what? As I'm thinking about it, as we both have heard that interview, or at least the clips of that interview, I think the hard part is, maybe they have a date in mind. I don't know if the players do, and they may, but they have numbers in mind, and those are not the same things.
Yes,
And
yeah,
those may be the complication, is that the priority for the owners is long, as I said last week, the objective is for down the road. It's not for the season, is that they're looking 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the future. And the players are like, we have a number in mind. And the owners
hmm
are like, no, we have a number of games in mind.
sure.
So, and those are maybe the conflict of why it's not getting done. So, you know, I'm gonna say May 1. That's my hope, or that's my, as you said, cautious optimism,
Yeah, I
which
mean,
is which is
I
sad.
think, yeah, it is. I'll take if we're putting money on it, which I know we aren't. I will say April 14th, right in the middle of April. I feel like they'll get to an
Hmm,
agreement soonish. I'm optimistic. I'm
yeah,
hoping that they come to some sort of agreement soon. They realize, hey, we're being buttheads. Let's figure this out. And
yeah,
because I mean, like Trevor May said in that interview, it doesn't make sense for any of them to not make money, right? The end
right,
result is to make money, whether you're the players or the owners, and you can't make money if you don't play, and that's for both the owners and the players. So, I mean, let's make it happen. Let's get some progress going here, and hopefully build on today, get to tomorrow, and then I know I'm sure you and I will text tomorrow all articles and different stuff that Jeff
yeah,
Passan, because he's
yeah,
great. I mean, he's if anybody's listening and you don't follow baseball, just follow Jeff Passan on Twitter.
yeah,
He's he's the best baseball writer in my opinion right now, and he's just on top of it with everything going on. He's there, and it's just he's a great follow to help understand everything. And then he also does a
yeah.
really good job of making it like simplistic for people to kind of break. I mean, because it's a lot of technical mumbo jumbo and numbers and stuff.
Right.
So like having somebody break it down in layman's terms is helpful to people who maybe don't follow as like intently as we do.
Y- Yeah, again, if you're listening 50 minutes in,
Yeah,
you know,
and you're
either
still hanging in there.
either you like us for some reason, or you're a baseball fan.
There
And
you go.
if you're not a huge baseball fan, as Ben said, Jeff Passan is great for updates. If you are a baseball fan, Evan Drellich from the Athletic is great. He is
Yes.
my go-to when it comes to numbers, understanding, and that's because I have a very limited. I'm very bottom of the pool, like very shallow understanding of baseball. But you know, as a baseball fan, he helps with that kind of stuff. But Chad Passon and Evan Drellich go to. So either way, we'll as we said, we'll find out more stuff in the following days. So
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I don't know how you feel about this, but if there is some major news or a big development over the week, you and I mean, I don't know what the other two schedule are, but I'm obviously available. So you and I can
yeah,
always pop in and do another one of these, just
yeah,
a recap episodes if there's something that major that happens that's worth discussing.
yeah, and well, again, I am not that optimistic, but let's say I'm open to it if it happens. Let's
There we
definitely
go.
say that.
I love it.
But that, you know what? For the last couple minutes, let's let's not let's get a little bit out of the weeds, and let's clear some room and just talk. So I know that, again, we are a family. So usually it's four cousins, and today it's just Ben and I.
Yep,
But
yep.
we all of us are from Chicago, or either live in or are from Chicago. And Ben, you're going to be rejoining us in the city.
Ooh,
So
ooh, ooh.
what are your
Yeah, that's
what
right.
are what are some of the spots you're gonna hit up first when you get back?
Well, first things first.
I'm a realist.
Yeah, I am Iggy Azalea. Everybody knows that.
Yes.
So anybody who isn't watching or hasn't seen my face, just know that I look like Australian rapper and female Iggy Azalea.
Yes.
Um, no, I think first I would have to go to a food place, right? I mean, I don't skip meals, so um, Al's Italian beef. Got to hit up Al's on Taylor Street. That's number one. You know what's messed up though is like the apartment that my wife and I are moving to. I still haven't been able to place it in my mind as to where everything else is located. So I'm just
Yeah.
assuming I'm near stuff, but I don't really know. Um, but I'm so excited to be moving back. I mean, I've lived. So let's see. Your brother picked me up on Christmas Day and moved me down to Normal with him almost 10 years ago now, and I haven't
Wow.
lived back up in Chicago since then. Right.
Hmm.
So it's been a very long time since I've been up by family consistently. I've been having to take trains and buses and carpool just to get up to see everybody,
Right.
spend like
Yeah.
2 days or a weekend, and then have to do it all to get back. So I'm just so genuinely excited to be up near everybody where I can pop in and see you. I can pop in and see Dave. I can pop in and see Dan until he leaves, and then still Katie and his kids and everything else. Like I'm just so excited to be back moving near people that I know, that I can, because I don't know anybody in Springfield. Nobody. I have no friends here. I have me and my dog. That's it. So I'm just really excited to get back up there, back up by everybody and hang out again, see your face in person or people's face in person. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've, you know, I, as I went to college, yeah, I went to Columbia, Missouri. I went to, as I said earlier, Mizzou, and I lived there for 7 years, 8 years, and or something like I don't know something, and I had because of I needed a heart transplant. I had to move back to the city, and because I got my transplant in a city hospital, I had to stay for a year. So I was here for a year and a half, then moved to as I said, Raleigh, and moved to Raleigh. Then I moved back. Then the pandemic hit, it went back, and then now I'm back here, and it's just um it's craziness. But um it is nice to be up here. And the one thing I will say is that I'm gonna give you some push on this, Ben, but I'm not an Alsby fan.
Oh my gosh. Do you
I
not like
mean,
Italian beef at all, or just not Al's?
I well for I don't dislike it. I would never option it above other stuff.
Okay.
But
So
if
let's say you went
someone
to
if someone was going there, I would have gotten something.
okay, let's say you were going to Portillo's. What's your order? Do you even like Portillo's?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Like up, Chicago. Get a bra or a town sausage.
There you go.
Town
Okay.
sausage with mustard and onions, real Chicago. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
get a
Dude, that's
little
honestly the
pickle on
best
there.
part. That's the best part about going to the cell. And I'll never call it whatever they want, whatever they're naming it now. It'll always be the cell, but the food that they have there, the Italian or the Polish sausage with the mustard and the onions,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. But I was telling the story to my wife the other day of what my dad used to eat, right?
Mm,
So he would eat a combo sandwich, which is an Italian beef and an Italian sausage on the same bun, but he would eat two of them, and then my man would eat some fries, and then he would have to get a diet coke because you have to off balance the rest by drinking a diet soda
right. Right.
instead
Yeah.
of that's how it worked. That's why he was you know the epitome of health and physical fitness. But it's just an insane amount of food. If you really think about it, that's an insane amount of food to
I mean, Ben, I don't have to think about it. I know it's a lot.
eat. Yeah, yeah, because we've seen it too. I mean, I've seen the man put down a good number of food in my day. Um,
I mean, and dude, if I eat one slice of cheesecake, I'm done. And
Yeah.
that's me
What
now.
kind
I'm like,
of so? I meant to ask you this. What's your go-to cheesecake flavor? Do you like plain cheesecake? Do you go strawberry or anything like that?
well, because of the transplant and the medication, and I've had some blood sugar issues simply
Hmm.
because of the medication. I can only really get the low carb cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory. Now, before I was sick, and I it was limited. I mean, whatever, dude. Whatever it was, I'm hammering
Didn't
that
matter.
thing.
Is
Dude,
cheesecake? Would you say cheesecake's your go-to dessert? Is that your favorite dessert?
I mean, it's what I get on my like for my birthday.
No, nice.
So it's if I had to choose one thing, and I usually don't eat many desserts, that's it.
That's a good. I
I
mean,
don't
that's a
know.
good pick. It's a good choice, though.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with a good cheesecake.
I mean
I
I
mean,
mean
cheesecake.
there are some bad ones, but
Oh,
not
sure.
many.
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
I
No,
mean
when you get a bad cheesecake, it's bad. You can tell that it's not good. But then when you get a good one, you're like, it's good. It's pretty good. You know. I
yeah.
mean, it's like anything though. You could. I mean, for the most part, it's hard to mess up like a chocolate chip cookie until you try a bad chocolate chip cookie. And you're like, you know what? I was better off
Yeah,
not eating this. Yeah, this is not
right.
great. I regret this instantly. Um, but yeah, no, I think it's cheesecake's fire, dude. It was one of those foods that I definitely didn't eat when I was younger, but as I've
Right.
gotten older, yeah, my you know how your tastes kind of change as you get older. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, cheesecake was definitely. But granted, I used to eat Swedish fish and nacho cheese, so
Right. Right.
I'm not a Michelin star chef. My taste buds are not the most refined, in the world.
Well, as we were growing up and playing baseball, in Homewood, Illinois, going to Isaac Walton, we would on the regular eat what is called a walking taco, which is just beef, Fritos, cheese, sour cream, and lettuce. And I'm like, and it's in the Fritos bag. So we did not have a robust menu.
Yo, but Isaac Walton food, like, because
It was good.
Dave has his kids, right? And they just
Yeah.
like kind of aged out of Isaac. Like Maya's, I mean, a junior in high school, which is just
Right.
insane to
Yeah.
think about how old she is now,
Yes.
right? But
Yeah.
um, and then Evan's like strictly doing travel ball, so he doesn't do Isaac Walton either. But
Right.
I used to love like popping into Homewood, going to see a game at Isaac Walton on a Saturday at like 11. The humidity's 95 degrees, those nasty little cotton weeds are
Uh,
everywhere. But I'm like,
uh,
this is my childhood all over again. It's
and
beautiful.
the one, I'm not. I don't know if you did it much when you were a kid. I know I did simply because of what you got, but when we're growing up, back in our day, uh, we used to have the manual scoreboards.
Oh, the best.
It
The
was, I
best.
mean, two kids sitting at a scoreboard changing the score and sometimes getting it wrong, but then getting a hot dog and pop like afterwards. For
Yeah,
some reason, that made that like a 2 hour commitment for kids worth it. It
absolutely
was
worth
great.
it. Yeah.
I
I don't
mean,
know if you remember this, but you and I were keeping score on North once.
mm,
And so, Dan's what, 3 or 4 years older than us, depending on the time of year.
yeah,
Um, so he had one of his friends, and when you get that age, I mean, because you and I were probably 8, 9, like we weren't even old yet.
yeah,
Um, and one of his friends came like running around North, like towards the where the old scoreboard used to be, up in like right field. And she came running around and she slipped on this huge slick of mud. And we called her slip and slide for the longest time because she just ate it and then biffed and then slid on her butt for like it looked like maybe 15 feet trying to chase us through the woods in Isaac Walton, just right on her butt. It's fantastic, dude. But I think about how great that used to be. And I honestly, and I feel this is true, that helped a lot with understanding baseball. It was like keeping score like that, like knowing what a
right.
hit is as opposed to an error, or and paying enough attention to know like when a run scores and all that stuff. Especially when you're young. I mean, granted, we didn't have like phones and stuff to distract us. We literally just
Right.
had what was in front of us while we were watching.
Right.
It
Right.
seems like we're talking about the 1950s, but it really wasn't that
No.
long ago.
No.
But it was cool though. It's I wish they still had that. Like I get that the electronic scoreboard's neat and everything, but A, it works 30% of the time, and B, nobody ever wants to do it anymore. There was something cool about being like Vanna White sliding those little numbers in there and making sure that the numbers were straight and all that stuff. It was cool.
I
It
mean,
was
I
just
mean, I,
great.
I mean, for one thing, I don't know if you want to compare like boys and girls at that age to Vanna White, but I mean, I get what you're saying. But no,
Crazy.
it was a lot of fun. If you know, again, for anyone listening still that doesn't understand or doesn't have that image of Isaak Walton in Homewood, um, you know, it just was. We're getting on a tangent. We were talking about cheesecake, and now we're here. But the idea that we can grow up playing a sport, learning sport as we're like keeping score, as well as just watching our brothers and sisters play. And now we're talking about a lockout.
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy that you can have the simple joy of just playing a game, hanging out with friends, family, and then as you get older, you're like, bro, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, it plants that seed early in your life of like things that you're gonna end up loving, things that you're gonna end up enjoying,
Right,
and thankfully for us, like we didn't get burnt out by baseball. I mean, at least
right,
not me. I don't think there's ever been a time where I'm like, ugh, baseball, Like I'm
right.
always excited that right when spring training and pitchers or catchers report, I'm like, let's go. Baseball's here. It immediately in my mind gets like 15 degrees warmer. So I'm like, spring's here. Like for me, Groundhog Day, whatever. Kick that little groundhog in the dirt. Pitchers and catchers reporting is my like in my brain the official start of spring. Pitchers and
And
catchers.
if PETA's listening, we do not endorse that.
No,
We
I
do
meant
not no. Do not
I meant
kick
kick
them.
him with love. Kick him with love.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, you know what? Let's give a very quick weekly Chicago sports take of the week. And if you don't mind, I'll actually go on this. Is that I talked about last week the USC Flames, their baseball team, start up, and apparently they've gone 1-1 so far.
Ooh,
And I actually misspoke. I said their first home game is March 4th. It's actually March 18th, I believe. And I could be even wrong again, and I'll correct next week. But as we said, hopefully will the weather in Chicago will be above, you know, freezing, above snow, and we'll be able to go to a game. So
dude,
that should be fun.
that would be so sick. I'm genuinely looking forward to that. I really hope we can find some time to do that. I was just looking at the weather for the rest of this week. It was 60 degrees in Springfield today, and
Mm.
it's supposed to snow in 2 days. I'm like, what is happening in the world that it could be 60 degrees and then snowing 2 days later? Like, this
I
clearly
don't
there's
know.
something wrong. But yeah, for me, I mean, obviously, I'm just really excited for the second half of the Bulls season. I really thought we were going to make a play on Goran Dragic, who was just bought out by
Nets.
what? No, he signed with the Nets, yeah, which is disappointing because I mean, how many point guards do they need? But I
Right.
was really hoping he would have came to Chicago, especially since
Mm.
Lonzo's still out for a little bit. But I'm just really excited about the second half of the Bulls here. I really think they're going to finish. I bet McNeil, and I was crazy when I said this because nobody else believed me. I said the Bulls are going to be a top four in the East, and now that they're tied for first in the East, I look like a genius. I look like a genius. So let's just hope they don't make me look like an idiot by the end of the year. They
I
just completely
mean,
bomb.
I
I wouldn't
mean,
be surprised, but I would be disappointed.
yeah, yeah, and Chicago needs some sort of
Yeah,
contender. So hopefully that'll be good. This is actually going to wrap up episode 8 of the On Family Basis podcast. Again, my name is Jake.
And I am Ben.
We will be back next Wednesday again. So join us as we, talk about baseball, have some fun, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.